Hello, my name is Gerard Seijts. I'm the Executive Director of the E&O in the Towage Institute for Leadership. And with me tonight is Michael Clemons. Michael, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gerard.
Michael, I'd like to ask you a number of questions.
Yes.
First question, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership is that wonderful ability that's inside all of us where we can influence others. And whether we like it or not, we have an influence. Sometimes that influence is positive, sometimes negative, sometimes it's neutral. But neutral is usually negative because that's apathetic. So we always, we influence. Leadership is really about influence. It's what we move people to, even nothing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when did you first realize that you were a leader?
I think the first time I really realized I was a leader was as a kid, and it wasn't sort of the noble thing that I did. It was more of just people always commented that he's always so happy, he smiles all the time, and my happiness seemed to make them feel better. And so happens in a very innocent way, very small way, but just the spirit and an attitude of being happy and smiling all the time, and it wasn't every once in a while. People always said, and I didn't understand it. I just thought that's where you're supposed to be.
So where does this happiness come from? You're so energetic. What counts for that?
That's all my mom. I got to give her all the credit. We grew up to a single parent. My mom was 18 when she had me, and her mom died when she was 5 years old. She went to live with her grandmother. 2 years later, her grandmother died of complications from tuberculosis. So then she went to live with her great-grandmother, and she went blind around the time I was born. So now, with all these things, it sounds like, wow, but she had just a phenomenal spirit, never complained. I think she understood that your circumstances are responsible for who you are, but you're responsible for who you become. She never made excuses. She always, there was so much love in our house, and I wouldn't trade my upbringing with anybody in the world, and she always made me feel that I had more than enough. There was never any lack, and most of that was just from her empowering spirit and her expectations. She was tough, right? My mom was, she was the most intimidating linebacker I ever played against. I'd rather see Mike O'Shea on the other side than see my mom over there. And so while she was intimidating, or really tough and really firm, right? It was a tough love. It was a firm love that had these wonderful expectations for me. And so my mom is truly my hero and mentor.
Good, good. How did you learn to be a leader, and what were some of the hardest things to learn?
One of the hardest things to learn as a leader is patience. Yes, you're watching something take place, right? And you just want to get in there right now and say, hey, listen, this is the wrong way to do it. But being, learning that listen, you can't just jump in there because you don't have a voice yet. Sometimes you have to build your voice up. As a leader, you have to know when you have a voice and when you don't have a voice. And sometimes you have some work to do before you gain that voice. There's some trust, and so you have to let things go. And even after you have a voice, you have to understand that your voice can be annoying rather than anointing sometimes. So what I mean is that there are times as a coach, as the head coach of the team, where I saw adjustments that we could make that would actually help in the next game. But I didn't make them. I made suggestions, but I didn't make them imperative. Why? Because I empowered my coaches to do their job. They're better at it than me. That's why you want to have the confidence, enough courage to hire people that are better than you at what they do. So at coaching offense, right, he should be better at coaching offense. And this coach should be the best at coaching defense. And in doing, though, you always see things. And my job is to sort of say, hey, have you thought about this? And sometimes you can see it in practice. They haven't made that change. You know it's the best thing, but you've mentioned it, and that's all your job to do. See, if you demand it, they're going to make the change, but eventually what will happen over time is that they're going to slowly move back to their side of the fence. However, if you just make the suggestion, empower them to have the final decision, when it doesn't work out, right, and they know that they should have made the adjustment, you're not going to have to say anything the next Monday morning. They're going to, Coach, I've done this and I've done, and now they've taken ownership. It's theirs. But being patient enough not to make, so we had to lose sometimes early in the season right? So that we could take the kind of
Right.
ownership later in the season that would make us a better team and move us in the right direction. So change isn't always immediate, and that's one of the most difficult things as a leader, is to be patient.
Yeah. You often talk about leadership, and that leadership comes with a platform. Can you please elaborate on that? What do you mean by leadership platform?
Yes, you do. You do have a platform, and as a leader, it's so important for us to understand that we do have a voice, and sometimes our voice isn't using our voice, right? But when it is our time, right, to use our platform, we need to know that is inherently the number one responsibility of the leader is to give vision, right? There's a Chinese proverb that said, vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare.
Yes.
Our job is to turn vision into action. And a lot of times we see people that say, well, they're not passionate. We want everybody to be, well, lack of passion usually emanates from lack of a compelling vision, right? So sometimes we have a vision, but that vision isn't compelling. When there is a compelling vision evokes passion. And so fundamentally, when we have our platform, it is our job to communicate what is that compelling vision that then will cause people to act. And if we don't use that platform, that wonderful voice, that wonderful podium, that wonderful megaphone that we have, then what's going to happen is it's not going to get done, right? Yeah, we need to understand that as leaders, it is incumbent upon us to do just that. The fact is, right, if you're leading and nobody else is following, as has been said before, you're just taking a walk.
Yeah. So, Michael, the last question. You will be addressing the MBA students tonight. What is the key message, or in other words, what is the one thing that you hope the students will take away from your presentation?
Well, that's probably the most difficult question, because inherently I battle tonight because there's so much that you want to say, and you can't say it all, and that's the responsibility of a good communicator, is not to try to say everything, because you can get lost in the message, and I'm gonna fight that tonight, because there's so much that I want to say, and I haven't finished it because I want to talk to our students beforehand and really get a feel of the room. So we kind of got an idea, but I really want to hear from them. But if I can say, beyond anything else, right, the single greatest challenge I've had in my life, right, I still have today. It wasn't growing up to a single parent in the projects, right? It wasn't being a little man playing in a big man's game. It wasn't, going from playing to coaching, and being the head coach, or playing one week and being the head coach the next week. All of those things and the other different challenges, none of those are my greatest challenge. The greatest challenge that I have, I see when I brush my teeth every morning. Right? I am my greatest challenge. And if our students, our brilliant, compelling young people, can understand that their greatest challenge is not the one that doesn't agree with the vision that they've set out. It is not the group over here that seems to want to swim their own direction. The fact is, if we can overcome ourselves, that is the greatest. I think it was a military person who said, I count him greater, he who overcomes himself, than he who overcomes his enemy. When I have the discipline, right, to take control of me, and always be in control of my circumstances as much as possible, right? Because in any other state, I'm just a victim. It's hard to lead as a victim.